for the first time ever, the WFNY CavsCast play-in preview edition. I guess play-in, playoff. It's not regular season, so whatever it is, it's not regular season. I'm your host, Josh Bloha, with Seth Wanamaker. We are live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And like always, as usual, this podcast is brought to you by the Evergreen Podcast Network. 24 hours, almost exactly. So we're about 24 and a half hours out from a winner-go-home game for the Cavs. I guess since it's at home, it'd be winner, lose. It's not really going home, but you know what I mean. So the Cavs win. They're on to the playoffs. They lose, the season's over. They have the Hawks tomorrow night. This podcast is basically just going to be previewing the Hawks game, just one game win or the season's over. And I mean, there's plenty to talk about, even with the struggling Cavs team. So we're here to talk about it, I guess. We're going to talk about it a lot. We're not going to look ahead. At least we're trying to try not to. And yeah, we're just going to talk Friday night, Cavs Hawks. Seth, how are you doing? And how are you feeling about tomorrow night? I'll start off with that.
Yeah, doing great. Biggest game of the year, no doubt about it. Biggest podcast of the year. If you're listening to this podcast, this is the biggest podcast of this year until the Cavaliers win, and then we're previewing the first round.
Oh,
so
far. Yeah, so far.
Yeah. And we're going to get into all this, but we got some encouraging news today on both fronts, from an Atlanta health side as well as a Cavalier health perspective. So I am so excited. You and I are both planning to be downtown for the game. It's going to be absolutely electric. So I feel like I'm so excited on both fronts, just from like a pure fan perspective. And then also just like to be around people. It's going to be like the most social thing I've done in a long time, to be around all these Cleveland fans, man. So I'm jacked up. I cannot wait to break this game down. And like tomorrow, I hope no one from my work is listening. I'm going to get like 2.5 hours of good work done. Anything past like 11:30, it's all about the Cavaliers.
I like that. I hope you go into work tomorrow and everyone's like, dun, dun, dun. No, and speaking of, so if in case you've been living behind or under a rock the last week or so, tomorrow night, Cavs Hawks at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, 7:30 tip off, and then across the gate. It's not really across the street; it's across the gateway. You have Guardians home opener against the Giants, 7:10 first pitch, I think. So yeah, downtown Cleveland's gonna be racking. Shout out to the Uber drivers at like 10 p.m. tomorrow night, because they're going to be making some good money. And hopefully I'll gladly take a Cavs win and a Guardians loss. But if the Cleveland team's going to go 2-0 tomorrow night, I think it's going to be one heck of a start to the weekend.
I like that. If we have to do the split, we'll do the split. Give us the Cavaliers at home. We can give away one for the Guardians, but ideally 2-0. And yeah, man, I got like a smile on my face because I'm so excited thinking about being in the arena. And the Cavaliers home court advantage has been real this year. The fans have been incredible. They've come out in waves. It's already been so good on like a random Tuesday night against the Kings. I can't even begin to think about what's going to be happening in that arena in just about 24 hours. It's going to be loud. It's going to be crazy. And man, I can't wait to hear Ahmad Rashad's voice over the loudspeaker. Place is going to go nuts. And I don't even know where to start because I'm just giddy at this point.
Cleveland. Yeah, I don't have tickets. I know you have tickets. I don't have tickets yet. I think I'm going to get some because I don't know. It's just I'd rather spend money on this game than the first round of the playoffs because one, it's a win or go home. It's literally all or nothing. And secondly, I mean, the Heat, yeah, it might be a favorable matchup if the Cavs do win this play-in, but let's be honest. I don't think the Cavs are going to beat the Heat in 7 games. So this is the best chance to not only be in a playoff atmosphere, but also to see a win. And just like you said, I can't wait. I'm more looking forward to like the pregame stuff as much as the game. I don't know. The game itself to be awesome, but I just can't wait to be downtown. I'm 99.9% sure I'm going to be downtown. And I know you already have tickets. And by the way, if anyone is listening, hit us up on Twitter, or I guess it'd only be Twitter, unless you join our Discord. Yeah, we'd love to meet you. Me and Seth haven't met yet, so we'll likely meet tomorrow. And let's just hopefully tomorrow night's a night of celebration. And I'm so not used to being at a Cavs game when it's nice out, because it's been like 3-4 years now, that I currently do not have a Cavs t-shirt that fits me. So I'm either going to wear a hoodie in 60-degree weather or something non-Cavs. But yeah, I'm probably just going to wear a hoodie. I'm just not used to winning Cavs basketball in late April or in mid-April. It's just so weird to me. And I just, like you said, I'm all in. I mean, we're 24 hours and 19 minutes out, and I cannot wait for tip-off tomorrow night.
Yeah, it's been since 2018, the last time we got a good taste of playoff basketball, and like we've suffered through some severe lows the past couple of years where the Cavs were winning 20 games after 20 games after 20 games. I think 3 years consecutively they were within that range, and so man, it's just so exciting to see some of that pain kind of be worth it, and yeah, it's just going to be an electric atmosphere. What I was thinking about for in terms of tomorrow, and I think this is as critical a question as any before we get into the basketball stuff. Josh, what's your number one like spot to go to for food/drink if you're hitting the Cavaliers game? Where's your go-to spot that you hit?
Food is always most important for a big guy like me. It's always, I mean, it could be the Super Bowl. Food's always number one thought, number one priority. But I'm trying to think. I haven't really been downtown because we were talking pregame. My brother lives in Tremont, so usually we're hanging out at his house or we go out to eat somewhere in Tremont and then catch an Uber ride to the Q or to Rocket Mortgage, which it's now called. So like I don't really go downtown and hang out there prior to the game. I do after. I know that 2-3 weeks ago we went to a game and went to Flannery's after. But yeah, a go-to spot downtown, I honestly don't really have one because I don't really go downtown for pregame, unfortunately. How about you?
Yeah, Flannery's like never disappoints. I used to always hit the Mexican spot on the corner. I think it was called Zolcano's, but they have since closed down, which is a huge bummer. But you Butcher and the Brewer is always a good spot. Get some good appetizers there. So yeah, usually I'm walking over to Butcher or Flannery's for a quick drink if I'm going to the Cavs game. But to your point, my love of Tremont is unmatched. Like if I can hit Tremont first, I'm 100% going to Tremont 1,000 times out of 1,000. But yeah, had to get like the dinner and drinks conversation out real quick before we hit the hardcore hoops here.
Speaking of Tremont, when I went to the Cavs game a few weeks ago, it was a barbecue place in Tremont. It was I'll think of the name of it. It was the Basement of Crust, which, by the way, Crust Pizza, superb. I'd say it's the top 3 for me. I'd go Ohio Pie in Brunswick, Medina Grad. I'm a Medina grad, and it's a Medina grad that owns it. Best pizza around. That's my number 1 spot. Frankie's in North Olmsted's probably my number 2 spot for pizza, but Crust is by far number 3. But yeah, going back, it's a barbecue place, and they had splendid barbecue. I love my barbecue, and it was really good, like burn ends and brisket. And for some reason, I'm thinking it was priority. No, I don't know. If you're familiar with Tremont, you would know it. But my go-to spot pregame wise would either be pizza or barbecue by far. But I guess enough about food, because now I'm freaking hungry. And even though I just ate dinner, let's preview this matchup. First and foremost, we got the news earlier. Jared Allen is a game time decision, which I guess is better than being doubtful or even questionable. Well, I guess he's still questionable rather than being doubtful or out. Shams posted that he wants to play, obviously. Who wouldn't want to play in this game? But that he's going to go through pregame stuff and just determine if he can play or not. And then shortly after that, Adrian Wojnarowski said that Jared Allen is 50-50. He still has severe pain in his non-shooting middle finger, which he broke almost 6 weeks ago. I think it was almost 5.5. I think it's 6 weeks on Sunday. It's either 5 weeks. I think it's 6 weeks on Sunday, which is beyond. We were talking about this prior to the podcast. I remember when it first happened, everyone was like, well, hopefully he doesn't need surgery because then he's going to be out 5 to 7 weeks. Well, we're at 5.5 weeks, no surgery, and he's feeling severe pain still. I I think Jared Allen's the type of player where he's going to go out and both him and the team won't want to risk anything long term. But I don't know. I just think it's crazy that he's still having severe pain this long after. I don't know. I just hope he can play. If him at 80% would be a huge boost for the Cavs, whether it's shot blocking or rim protector or catching alley-oops and Darius Garland. But before Jared Allen, so we have Jared Allen on the Cavs, and then we have is it Boban Bogdanovic? I always get the Atlanta Hawks Boban and the Utah Jazz's Bogdan. Isn't it Bogdan and Bogdan?
Yeah, I believe. Don't quote me, but I believe it's Bogdan Bogdanovic. I believe.
Okay. So the Hawks are without their shooting guard, also without John Collins, who's been out for quite a while now. He's their starting power forward, and then they're also without Lou Williams, who seems like he's been out all season. So they're without 3 key guys. I mean, it's easy to use it's easy to use injuries as an excuse for the Cavs, like we have all season, because they're real and they've had horrible injury luck. But I mean, the Hawks are without 2 starters too, so now it's literally a 1-game playoff. Hopefully, you're hot shooting. Hopefully, Atlanta's not. Injuries are no longer an excuse. You go out there and you just do whatever you have to do to win. I mean, I know for weeks now we've been saying, what was the hashtag that I've been using? No, not whatever it takes. That's the Cavs. Whatever it is. I don't care how ugly it is. Just find a way to get a W. Hopefully Jared Allen's in there. If not, hopefully Moses Brown can lock up Clint Capella, because Lauri Markkanen's going to have a tough time if he has to be on Clint Capella all game. Yeah, but yeah, let's just preview this matchup. What are some of your first takeaways? I've been talking too much. So what are some of your first takeaways from this matchup, Seth?
Yeah, huge impact on Bogdanovic being technically he's ruled questionable per Atlanta, but there's some stories around that people would be surprised if he plays because he had a pretty bad sprain just last night. Typically those take, a couple days at least to feel better. So that's a huge swing. I mean, he's a 15 points per game scorer. The Cavs don't really have a guy quite like him on their side, just in terms of his, efficiency, shooting the ball. He's an incredible shooter. So that's huge. That gave me a lot of optimism, the fact that he might be out. And I say that coming off the heels of a Brooklyn game where the Cavaliers' wings just completely let them down. Like I won't live in the past for too long, but in terms of what Lowry and Osman and Okoro and LeVert did, just absolute goose egg in terms of what they provided in the Brooklyn game. Combined, those 4, Lowry, Osman, Okoro, and LeVert, combined to shoot 27%, 9 of 33 from the field. And if those 4 guys, produce that same kind of result tomorrow night against Atlanta, I think it's safe to say the Cavaliers are going to lose. They need at least 2 of those 4 to put together a solid game. Matchup wise, and this is something we could probably talk about a lot, but it just sticks out so much. If Jared Allen's able to give it a go, that takes so much pressure off of Mobley and who Mobley may need to guard. So if Allen can play at 85% of what he can, he can swallow some of those Capella minutes, and then that frees up Mobley to potentially guard, a Gallinaro. Hopefully I'm saying his name right. Dano is what I call him from the old
Gallinari. I completely forgot he's on the Hawks. Holy cow. All right, go on.
I apologize. That's a huge brain dump on my end, but Gallinari, and I think the big thing about Mobley having the ability to guard him is Mobley's quick enough to get out on the 3-point line to challenge him, but Gallinari is so limited physically that Mobley can no doubt float and help Allen at the rim. So, man, if that was one thing I wrote down I wanted to talk about today is if Allen can play and eat up some of those Capella minutes. Capella's a banger. He's tough, physical, but if Allen can give some of those minutes to Capella and allow Mobley to more so float, I think that's how the Cavs have a big advantage in this game. If they can have Mobley, like I said, almost play like that free safety, help on the rim. And that's what the Hawks killed Charlotte with last night, was like the roller, but then the next guy would come right after. And then it's like, man, if Mobley could help out on that would be huge. So that's one thing I circled, and I'd love to get your thoughts on kind of how do you see kind of the matchup impact if Allen can play and if he can't play?
you made a great point. Jared Allen playing, we all know how good of a rim protector he is. I'd say he's a top 5 defender in the NBA. Evan Mobley and Jared Allen both. Jared Allen being in there not only gives the Cavs a legitimate rim protector and a guy that can get rebounds and make things tough for Clint Capella, but it also allows Lauri Markkanen. Well, I'll first say Evan Mobley. It allows him to be like the free safety type, like you said, but it also trickling down. It also allows Lauri Markkanen to not have to guard the team's big or the opposing team's big like he has been the past 4 or 5 weeks now. And that not only, I mean, people say like Lauri Markkanen, he's overrated. He wasn't brought on the Cavs to be a 5 guy. He was not brought on to be the guy that has to guard the opposing team's center, whether it's Clint Capella, Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, anyone. So Jared Allen being in there with a trickle-down effect, it allows Evan Mobley to be the free safety kind of type that where he flourishes, and then it allows Lauri to be a much better both defensively, but then since he won't have to guard the opposing team center, it also allows him to ease a little bit of the effort that he has been on the defensive end of the floor and use it offensively. So I think Jared Allen, if fingers crossed, if he can play, it'll not only help defensively for obvious reasons, but it'll also open up things offensively because it'll allow the Cavs to go back to the game that they had 2 months ago when the Tower City, I guess you'd call them, the 3 bigs, worked step and step, and it was 3 7-footers and not 2 7-footers without Jared Allen, or even 1 7-footer without Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. It'll just do, even like I said, even Jared Allen at 80% would be a huge boost for this team, not only on the court, but just like the boost of confidence that I think this team really, really needs.
Yeah, the way that Bickerstaff deployed, guys without Allen against the Nets, the other night was he really didn't play Moses Brown at all, didn't really trust him. So he ended up, playing Mobley and Lowry were, really the 2 big guys. And it's just asking Lowry to do so much. I mean, 1 second he's guarding Kevin Durant. The next second he's like helping on Drummond. And yeah, I think if we can get Lowry out of that spot, allow him to be the shooter the Cavs need him to be, use the majority of his energy on offense is great. And the Hawks, specifically without Bogdanovich and Collins, I think the Hawks have 1 or 2 guys they really have to play that may be great defensive matchups for Lowry. So yeah, getting Lowry out of that key position where he's outmatched either both ways, speed wise or physically, and having Allen and Mobley back would just be so big. But yeah, that maybe I'm overvaluing it or overrating it, but seeing Bogdanovich being out, really is impactful to me. And, the Hawks have one thing the Cavs don't, and I think that's just kind of a bevy of really capable wings that can score, whether it's Herter or Hunter or Gallinari can shoot. Bogdanovich, I mean, those are 4 guys that I would take on the Cavs tomorrow in a heartbeat because they can score, they can shoot, they can space the floor, and having one of those guys out just, to me, it means they're gonna have to play someone else that they don't have as much confidence in. So yeah, I'm feeling great about the matchups. The one thing that I wanted to get your opinion on too is I don't know if you had a chance to watch the full game last night against the Hawks in Charlotte. At least early on, it looked like, well, specifically one call, Trae Young kind of did a push off and they called an offensive foul on him against Rozier, which was beautiful. And then later on, he got hit a couple more times lightly and the refs didn't call it. And so I wonder if that's a thing to come playoff wise, playoff wise, or was
don't
that
get your hopes up. I don't want to interrupt you, but don't get your hopes up. Keep going.
I made a joke on Twitter that they should fly those refs to Cleveland tomorrow because that's what I needed out of the matchup for the refs tomorrow is to not call that BS. But secondly, I'm just interested because the way the NBA season went, they started off really well. And that's why the Cavs had so much success, or some of the success was because they were letting guys play. And like the physical style that the Cavs played really matched up well to to the referees swallowing the whistle a little bit. But as the season progressed, month over month, you saw the fouls continue to uptick. And so last night's game kind of caught me off guard with, I think there was a very big difference between how Trey was officiated last night versus some of the end of the season stuff. So very curious if we're going to see like a little bit of swallowing the whistle because it's the play-in playoffs, or was that an anomaly with 3 refs and that's going to have no correlation to what we're going to see tomorrow. I'm just going to be watching that like a hawk because Trey can go from 0 free throws to 12 in 2 minutes.
And I know we were talking about on Discord earlier, or before you go on, actually, Bogdanovich, I just went on ESPN. He's listed as day to day. So I'm not going to take that out report too far right now. I don't want to, I'll never wish an injury on someone. And I don't want to say like, I hope he's out, but it would be a huge relief for the Cavs if the Hawks are without Bogdanovich. Cause like you said, they have so many guys besides Trey that can just get to the basket and shoot threes and score. But back to Trey and fouls. We were talking about in Discord earlier. Trey is a guy that I would love to have on my team just because he does a great job of impersonating himself as the villain. I know we saw it in Madison Square Garden either last year or the year before. People love to hate on Trey. It's crazy. And he like takes it all in and then just dominates most of the time. But yeah, he's like a James Harden. I will never compare him to James Harden because I can't stand James Harden. I really can't. He used to be one of a great guy to watch play basketball, but now he just searches for fouls and does nothing else. But like Trey, he gets fouled. I guess it's more of a referee problem than a Trey Young problem because the referees are allowing him to do it. But like if he gets touched with like a pinky, he's a fall down or flat. I guess you'd call it a flap, and it's going to get called. It's just, I don't know. I hope it doesn't happen. I hope the referees don't do that tomorrow night. I hope it's like last night, like you said, in Charlotte, where they weren't doing that. But then again, I mean, we've been talking all year about how the Cavs do not get a home whistle. So I would not be surprised if Trey Young gets a lot of easy free throws tomorrow night. I hope this game doesn't come down to Trey Young shooting like 15 to 20 free throws, making 80% of them, 90% of them, whatever his shooting is. I think he's closer to 90%. And that's how the game is decided tomorrow night. I want it to be a basketball game, not a free throw contest. And I hope the referees, I mean, like, who knows? Maybe now that it's playoffs, it's a play-in, maybe they swallow the whistle and they don't call that little stuff against Trey. Or again, I guess it'd be against the Cavs on Trey. But yeah, I don't know. I hope if he goes off for 40 points, I hope 35 of them are actual legitimate points and not 10 to 15 from free throws, which I obviously do not want him to go off for 40 points, but I want it to be a good game and not be like, well, what would have happened if the referees didn't call 1,000 fouls on the Cavs? And I mean, we've been saying this too. Trey Young gets a lot of veteran all-star foul calls, and Darius Garland doesn't get jack shit. Excuse my language, but it's just crazy that imagine if Darius Garland got the fouls that Trey Young got, and he would be probably a first-team All-NBA guy because that'd be like 5 to 10 more points a game, to be honest.
And it's one of the reasons why I like Garland so much is because he carries himself in a way where he's not going to do like the flopping thing. And maybe it'd be smart for him to get more of that in his game. But like, as a fan of his and the Cavs, I love the fact that he kind of plays straight up. And it's almost like an art form, what, Trey and at times like Luka and Harden have done, which is create, the acting skills, and they make it so hard for the officials. And I would love to like hit a official or two with some truth serum and see what they think about those guys. Like, does it tick them off after the game when they see that they called a foul on a BS play or not? So yeah, it's going to be really interesting. Unfortunately, that may be a key indicator of the game. One of the things that is going to be really interesting to watch, you and I talked about it before, is, Isaac Okoro has had an up and down year this year, I think, to say the least. He started off the year really struggling with the shot. Then he found a little bit and he was starting to hit more shots. Then he had a very brief stint of going cold, I believe. And then, I would say for probably about a month, kind of late in the season here, he was shooting the lights out of the ball. He was shooting like 45+%. If memory serves, March was an incredible year. I'm sorry, an incredible month for him. And just as it came, it's like it all went away. And now he's really struggling to score. Last game, he only played 13 minutes. He was 0 from 3. I think all three of his shots were those corner threes. Only played 13 minutes. You're starting two guard. And Okoro played so well earlier in the year against guys like Kyrie Irving and Trae Young. We had incredible defensive performances. I probably shouldn't say this because I don't know every single thing that he's doing from a scheme perspective defensively, but we can see with our own eyes, like he doesn't have those steal numbers. He doesn't have those like shooting guard block numbers. And man, Josh, I've just been having a hard time with Okoro the past, couple weeks because he's not scoring the basketball. He's not, it doesn't appear to me like he's playing game-changing defense like he was earlier in the season. And so as evidenced by 13 minutes last game, I think it's just tough to play him right now if he's not scoring. And man, I don't know who the Cavs throw at Trae Young. My first thought would be Okoro, but if they're not going to play him, I'm very curious to see what the strategy is going to be against Trae. And I don't know, do you have any thoughts about where Okoro's at right now and what you expect of him in terms of playing time tomorrow?
I know we talked about this prior to the podcast too. If Okoro isn't doing anything defensively, as in letting Kyrie be a perfect like 10 for 10 or 9 for 9, whatever he was in the first half in Brooklyn on Tuesday night, there's no point in playing him because he can sometimes go on a hot streak offensively, but he's a defensive first guy. So if he's not doing much defensively, just like Tuesday night, he's only going to play 13 minutes, and the Cavs will hope that. I guess it'd be a Karis LeVert. I'm just trying to think. Karis LeVert or Jetty, maybe. Having to guard Trae Young without Isaac Okoro on the floor is kind of scary, I guess you'd say. But then again, if Isaac Okoro is an O for offensively and allowing Kyrie or Trae to be perfect defensively, there's literally no point to him being on the court. It's 4-on-5 on offense, and he's not doing anything defensively, which I guess I just repeated myself. But man, I don't even know who you have guard Trae. You can't really have Darius Garland guard Trae because yes, it's point guard on point guard, but if he has to run around with Trae on defense, he's gonna get very tired offensively too, and that's gonna affect his offensive game. I guess it'd be Karis. I don't know. Because Karis isn't that good of a defensive guy. I guess Karis would have like the length, but Karis also isn't that good of a defensive guy. He's not a defense first guy. Man, I honestly don't know. Or maybe you just let Trae go off for his 40 to 45 points and stop everyone else. I guess that's easier said than done, but maybe that's the plan. I don't know.
Yeah, and LeVert's feet are not incredibly quick. So I think, I don't know. Do you do like an early Stevens sub? If Okoro is really not showing you what you want early on, maybe do a quick Stevens sub. But yeah, I know you and I have both been on the bandwagon of Okoro this year. And like, there's so much potential physically. He's gifted. And man, when he was shooting it well, it's like this guy can do no wrong. He was getting down. So he was shooting the ball well. That's one thing. The second thing was he was taking the ball in transition and like going after guys. Like with the ball, he is hunting you and he's going to go put it up. And this is probably blending past just tomorrow night's game. But yeah, I just really hope for tomorrow Okoro can find something, be aggressive. Like, of course, don't take any shots you shouldn't be, not in the flow of the offense. But man, the Cavs could sure use an aggressive Isaac Okoro going down court and in transition tomorrow.
Yeah, if he can get 10, I'll say 12 to 15 points. I'd keep him on the court just because. But then I don't know, because I'd say like make sure you use all your fouls against Trae and just let him know that you're there. But then you don't want Trae Young going to the free throw line either because he's an excellent free throw shooter. So be super physical with him. Don't allow him to get an easy basket. I guess if he goes off on making threes, it happens. I mean, he's a really good shooter for a reason, and he has unlimited range. So if he's having one of those nights, it's one of those nights. I hope no matter how many points Trae Young scores tomorrow night, I hope that 90% of them are like those tough, like, what are you going to do points? Not just like, wow, that was way too easy, if that makes sense.
Very Kyrie Irving esque. Like the Brooklyn game was frustrating, mainly from what the Cavs were doing perspective, how they fell apart early. They were turning the ball over way too much, but like the Kyrie Irving was just like tip your hat to him. Like he was a ridiculous shot maker, as was KD, amongst other guys. But yeah, it's like if you play good defense, stay on your feet, and make him make a tough jump shot, it's like okay, you live with that and know that if he did that 100 times, he's probably not going to make more than 48 of them, something like that. So kind of tip your cap. And yeah, Kyrie, Trae, I mean they're some of the best shot makers in the league. So that's one piece that I'm always fascinated with, that conversation of, do you try to stay one-on-one and let the star kind of get theirs and try to shut down the other guys? Maybe the star gets a little tired. Or do you blitz the heck out of Trae and make the other guys beat him? I kind of like the strategy of both in different instances. And so that'll be something interesting to see. That at least in terms of Charlotte and what I saw last night, they were being pretty aggressive. They were trying to make Trae give it up. He did early, and the Hawks were red hot. The other guys, Herter and Hunter, they were red hot. And then Trae had a tough game, but it didn't matter because all of his guys were making. So it'll be interesting to see what JB does tomorrow. More so stay one-on-one or blitz the heck out of Trae and see if these other guys make shots.
That's true. I would not be surprised if we saw a lot of teams adjust to the Cavs offense by blitzing Darius Garland. I would not be surprised if the Cavs now do that for Trae and just hope that Herter. I know Hunter struggled in the first half last night, but then he had like 21 points in the third quarter alone. And you just hope that Herter and Hunter and Gallinari, maybe Bogdanovich, maybe not, hope that not all three of them are, maybe like one of the three is hot and the other two are just like average, and you just don't allow Trae to get easy baskets. I would not be surprised if they blitz every single pick and roll that Trae Young does tomorrow, especially if it's Evan Mobley, because you know how Evan Mobley, how versatile he is. We both know that. Maybe they use Evan Mobley on like not like a trap Trae Young every play kind of thing, but just like get the ball out of Trae Young's hands. And if he gets the ball back, hopefully there's 10 seconds or less on a shot clock, and then Atlanta's like off rhythm, I guess you'd say. It'll be interesting to see. JB, like the play, we've been saying a lot that the Cavs young players need this experience, this play-in / playoff / winner go home experience. JB Bickerstaff and this coaching staff need it just as much. So it'll be interesting to see. They'll have basically a full 72 hours to prepare for this game. I wonder what they'll do against Trae Young and just like and offensively, because the Cavs have been struggling offensively. We all know that. Besides that Nets game, the regular season finale, but we're not going to count that because that was the Nets JV squad. It'll just be interesting to see how this Cavs team comes out, both as a coaching staff and from the player front.
Man, what we wouldn't give to see some of those nice Jared Allen screens for Darius Garland. And like Darius Garland has not been open the past month and a half because he hasn't been getting those beautiful screens from Allen. So man, I don't know. I don't know if Allen's going to put like his left hand behind his back before he does one of those screens and just kind of put his right arm out and do like a little like a little casted thing here. But the possibilities of getting that lob back, because Mobley's an incredible, jumper and plays above the rim. It's not like Allen. Allen and Garland have that special connection where, it's either Garland's going to give him a bounce pass if the defender's playing a certain way, or lob it up if the defender's playing a different way, or Garland will keep it itself. It's just they have incredible chemistry. And so, yeah, I'm hoping to get a little bit of that. And man, that would just make all the difference in the world.
That's another thing with Jared Allen. I mean, even if he's at 80% as a rim protector and as like a dunker, he can have an injured finger and set screens. I mean, like you just said, Darius Garland hasn't been able to get downhill and run full speed really with the basketball in his hands, just because the Cavs don't have a legitimate screener. I guess Kevin Love is, but 99% of the time the defenses know that he's not going to roll. He's going to go out to the 3-point line. So having Jared Allen in there alone just to set screens is huge for this offense. So yeah, I know we've been talking a lot about the Hawks, but that's another reason why getting Jared Allen back, even he won't be 100%. Let's be honest, he won't be 100%. But even like a 75% Jared Allen for 20 to 25 minutes, that's 20 to 25 minutes of screens and rebounds and rim protecting that the Cavs haven't had in 5.5 weeks.
And this is a good like quick macro perspective too. I'm personally really enjoying like the both sides of the coin for tomorrow. It's either one, you play a playing game, all your guys get that incredible experience and you win and you send Trae Young home, who like Trae is not one of my like favorite players to watch in the league just with how he plays and some of the complaining he does. So sending him home in Cleveland would be very special to me while I'm there hollering his name. Secondly, if they lose, I prefer the first scenario, to be clear. If they lose, it's time to start looking at mock drafts. And that's something Josh and I are going to talk a lot about in the offseason. But even with a loss, you know, the young guys are still getting that great experience with tomorrow's game. And you can think about a lottery pick coming back to Cleveland. So I'm probably protecting my own feelings here with saying that. But truly, like, I'm not going to be too bummed out about either scenario because there's glass half full aspects about both.
Yeah, I think we've talked about that the last few weeks. How like I know I kept harping on it. I tweeted about it probably 3 weeks ago now. The worst case scenario now was the best case scenario 5 months ago. The worst case scenario now is the Cavs lose 2 games in the play-in, don't make the playoffs, and get their first round pick back that they traded for Karis LeVert, the protected first rounder. If you had told me back in October that the Cavs would get to the play-in and even lose and not make the playoffs, I would have been like, heck yeah, let's do it. So the glass half full thing, it would stink because the Cavs were literally predicted to be a top 3 seed in the NBA playoffs and have like a 98% chance of making the playoffs. Like Christmas time, probably even January, probably even as recent as maybe February before all these freaking injuries happened. But looking at the big picture, yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I really, really, really want the Cavs to win tomorrow night, especially since the game's in Cleveland, and especially because we're both going to go. But if the Cavs lose, they get their first round pick back. If they win, they go to the playoffs. Is there really it's a win-win situation, honestly, because let's be honest, that first round pick, that's a top 14 pick. If they somehow get really good lottery luck again, it might be top 10, maybe top 5. I'm not going to count on it because the Cavs have gotten very good lottery luck the last few years. So it happening again is very, very slim, most likely. But even the 14th pick, they can get a solid win, a 3-and-D win that they really, 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 really need. I can't really say really enough because that's literally what this team needs. Yeah, it's a win-win going into tomorrow night, especially, I don't know. Big picture, it's a win-win. Short term, it'd be like, man, the Cavs did not even make the playoffs. That's embarrassing. And then you just have to take a step back and realize that if all these injuries didn't happen, the Cavs would literally be a top 4 seed easily in the East. So it's one of those, it is what it is things. But yeah, I'm with you. Tomorrow night's a win-win for sure.
And there would be, you know, in like the doomsday scenario of a loss, like thinking about bringing healthy guys back next year. Plus, you know, you don't want to ever put too much pressure on a rookie, especially one that's not like a top 3 pick, which the Cavaliers likely wouldn't be. But just adding to, you know, what they've done this year with healthy guys back is, I know have a hard time keeping my feet on the ground thinking about the potential of that team. And one thing just about the draft pick, about a potential draft pick that may convey if they lose, that was one observation I had from the Nets game is just you have generational Hall of Fame level shot makers on the Brooklyn Nets, you know, with KD and Kyrie. So obviously you're not thinking any rookie or any lottery pick like that is going to turn into any of those guys, but there's just a base level of shot making that the Cavs just don't have. And even with Garland, of course, is a ridiculously tough shot maker. But outside of Garland, maybe you consider LeVert, but he's more of like a dribble drive shot maker. The Cavs don't really have any tough shot makers outside of Garland. And so that game screamed to me, shot maker. Whether it's a shooter, any kind of shot maker would have made the Cavaliers, dynamically more dangerous in that Brooklyn Nets game when they were mounting that comeback. But enough about the Nets. It's just that pick stood out to me, and I scribbled like on my little notepad, shot making. It would be so important for this team.
Shot maker outside of Darius Garland, please.
Please give this man a break, please.
So enough about the offseason, enough about the Nets, because let's be honest, the next time the Cavs could meet the Nets, I think, would be the Eastern Conference Finals. That's most likely.
Bring it on.
But it's certainly not going to happen. I'll eat my words. If that does happen, I'll gladly eat my words. But we talked about Trae Young. That's literally, we all know that's the key tomorrow night. If the Cavs win, hopefully either Trae goes off and no one else does, or Trae has a very cold night. But offensively, we talked about Darius Garland and being able to get downhill with Jared Allen. I also, and you said, out of Jetty, Lauri Markkanen, and Karras, I think two of them need to have like 15 or more points. They need those three, I think, need to combine for 40 if the Cavs want to win tomorrow night. Do you agree?
100%. I don't think there's a world where you hold the Hawks to under 105, 110 points. Cavs are going to have to score tomorrow. It's just what's going to happen with how lethal the Hawks offense is. Although I know we're going to talk about this. They're not quite as good away from Atlanta as they are, as they are at home. But I 100% agree with you. Cavs are going to have to score the basketball, and you just simply can't have games like Okoro, Osman, and LeVert did. Even Lowry, all four of those guys, like I said, combined for 27%. And so, weirdly, I have some confidence in those guys tomorrow because they played so bad. And like LeVert's had a little bit of a bounce back to him, where he started off pretty poorly. He sprinkled in a couple of good games lately. Lowry has shown flashes. So yeah, I totally agree. I think two of those guys are going to have a good showing tomorrow. And they have to, or they're going home.
So on to tomorrow night. Home court advantage. We knew that it was huge that the Cavs would get the 7 or 8 seed in this once it was guaranteed that they were going to get a play in, not only because they would get 2 chances to win one game, but also for the home court advantage. We all know Cavs home court advantage is going to be a very hostile environment for Atlanta tomorrow night. We all know that, especially for Trae. It's been a playoff atmosphere for weeks or even months now. Now it's a Friday night must-win game. I know we talked about this to start the podcast. The atmosphere is going to be incredible. Speaking of home court advantage, though, the Cavs have struggled lately. We all know that. They're 3-7 in their last 10, but they are 25-16 at home, 19-22 on the road. The Hawks are 27-14 at home. They are 16-25 on the road. That is by far the worst road record of the 20 teams that made either the playoffs or the play-in in the NBA. So of the 20 of the 30 teams in the NBA, they're not good on the road. I mean, let's be honest, they're just not good. So yeah, that paired with the hostile environment, I think that favors the Cavs big time from the start. Hopefully they can take advantage of that. Hopefully the first quarter isn't like late first quarters lately where the Hawks get off to like a 10 to 15 to 20 point lead. They'll take the crowd completely out of it. The best case scenario, I think, tomorrow is that the Cavs lead by like 5 to 10 points at the end of the first quarter, because that crowd is going to be freaking rocking. And I mean, the atmosphere will be through the roof. The confidence for all these young guys on the Cavs will be through the roof. We can't stress home court advantage enough. And if you are listening and you go to the game tomorrow night, please do whatever possible to not have a voice this weekend. Seriously. Because we need, 20,562? Is that still the number? I think no, never mind. They just did the Loudville standing room only, so it's less than that now. But whatever number it is, we need all 20,000, 19,000, whatever it is, to be as loud as possible and make life hell for the Atlanta Hawks for 2.5 hours tomorrow night.
Yeah, very well said. And I think the Cavaliers should make an initiative, like bring down the people in like section 500 or what. I know that's the Cleveland Browns have a section 500, but bring down the people in the upper deck, whatever they call it, Fanville. You know, the hoity-toities will be sitting there after paying like 1,500 its ticket. No, move them up. Move the blue class people down. Those are the people that we need yelling at the Hawks players. So yeah, it's going to be huge. And like thinking about, we haven't had these memories for quite a few years. I was lucky enough to go to some of the playoff games in 16, 17, 18, and just the atmosphere. It's like a whole new energy with a new team. Like some of those LeBron-led teams, they were put together, right? This is a homegrown team. Like who is playing in this game? Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, Jared Allen. Of course, they traded for him, but they've had him for over a year now, and so yeah, it just feels very homegrown. Feels very exciting. The home court's going to be incredible, and I'm personally going to go check out what the gambling space looks like. I know it's not going to be done yet, but I'm going to be peeking around to see what the status is on that. Just how far along are these guys?
By the way, I know we talked about this last week. This podcast is not gamble, and if we do, it's all how we have to be of age, and I don't know how else to say it. But just if you do gamble, I know it's really fun, but just be safe out there, please, and don't be stupid.
Have a limit.
That's what I can say. Yeah,
have a limit.
Always.
Yep.
Back to the Cavs Hawks. Oh no, what were you gonna say?
I was going to ask you, do you want to train? Because I think this is a great way to kind of stay in the game tomorrow. Do you want to transition to talking about individual players and kind of our little draft experiment, or do you want to go anywhere else before we hit?
I'm down to do that draft thing that we were talking about. But yeah, we can't stress enough. 1, home court advantage. 2, Jared Allen, hopefully. If he's back, that's a huge confidence boost, literally from the rip, just because he's back for both the fans and the players. I just can't. What time is it now? So less than 24 hours now till tip off.
Let's go.
And the Rock and Mortgage Fieldhouse, I guess, is it called the Rock? What did Lamar Stevens call it the one time? He spell check got him on Twitter. I forget what he called it.
Yeah, totally. I forget
what he called it now. But I just hope. I know I can't stress this enough. I just hope it's one heck of an atmosphere tomorrow night. Seriously.
Getting goosebumps already, man. It's gonna be special out there. And we got kind of a sticky segment here, but thought it'd be a good way for us to get tactical with some of the players. And I think for the purposes of, Josh and I are gonna go through both teams and draft just the best players. So I think this is not a draft for Josh and I to build the best team, but I think it's an interesting way for us to kind of break down who are the most impactful players on the court tomorrow. And so Josh and I are going to plan to pick both sides. We're going to have 6 players each. So there's a pool of Cavaliers and Atlanta Hawks players, of course, that are going to play big, meaningful minutes tomorrow. It's going to be more than 12 guys, but just in terms of kind of getting the top 6 each, I think Josh and I are going to kind of rotate, do a snake draft, and pick the best 6 players that we possibly can, and see where we wind up. And I think, one of the reasons I wanted to do this was I think the Hawks have a very interesting lineup, very interesting personnel. It's very different from what the Cavaliers have. So I think it'd be interesting if we kind of go through this, see what our best 6 players are. Again, not a team. We're not building like point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center. It's just pick your 6 best players. And I think it'll be interesting to kind of talk through that and see what shakes out.
And they have to be healthy. So we cannot, although I guess Bogdanovich, we will consider him healthy.
Him and Allen.
Yeah. And Jared Allen, but we can't pick like Colin Sexton. Oh man. I can literally go on and on about the Cavs injuries, but we can't pick any guys that are out.
Yep.
Do you want to go first? Do you want me to? I say you go first.
Okay.
Do a snake draft.
All right, perfect. So yeah, I'll go first, and then you get the next 2 picks, right?
Yeah, you're gonna give me Trey. I can already see it. Damn it.
This pains me to do it, but I gotta pick him. I gotta pick Trey. I think he's unfortunately just an incredible playmaker. I like Darius personality wise and game more, but Trey is just incredibly good. So I will pick Trey as the number 1 player on the court tomorrow.
Yeah. Let's hope he's not the number 1 court number one player on the court tomorrow, but yes, he very well can be and is. On paper, he likely is. Since I get two, I will go. Well, obviously Darius Garland one, and then it's either Evan Mobley or Jared Allen. I'll go Evan Mobley. I'll go the two young guns on the Cavs. Darius Garland, DG, and JA, as Kevin Love likes to always use initials.
That's exactly the ranking I had. So I had Trey first, Garland second, Mobley third. So I think we're pretty much in the same ballpark so far. Now that I have two picks, and I think this is where it gets really, really interesting, where I think there's a run for a certain team that I wish wasn't really the case coming up here. But if I have two picks, and again, I'm not picking position, I'm just picking like pure best player. Who do I want as like a winning player on my team? I'm going to grab Jared Allen and assume he's like 90% or better to play. I don't know if that's the case, but I'm going to pick Jared Allen. And then there's a lot of players to pick from. I think there's a lot of really good candidates from the Atlanta Hawks to pick from at this point. But in terms of winning player, I love what this guy does defensively, and he's a shot maker. So I'm going to go Hunter with the Hawks. He had an incredible third quarter last game. And I think, I think Hunter is probably the sixth best player available. There's a lot of ways you could go, but yeah, I think my third player out of six is going to be Hunter.
Yeah, this is tough too because we're 5 picks in. From now on, you can literally go anywhere with these picks. So you picked DeAndre and wait, who did you? Oh, Jared Allen and DeAndre.
And I can run through just since we're halfway through. I'll run through real quick. So yeah, I picked Trae Young, Jared Allen, and DeAndre Hunter. And so far, you picked Darius Garland and Evan Mobley.
All right. So just so I don't have an all Cavs team, I guess so far, right now you could literally go with Kevin Huerter. I think it's Horter, Kevin Horter,
yeah.
Bogdan Bogdanovic, and Danilo Gallinari. You can go with any three of those.
They're all good.
Yeah, they really are. I'll go with Bogdanovic and Huerter, Kevin Huerter. So I'll go with two Hawks. Now I'm 2-2.
They're like Bogdanovic is a better playmaker than Huerter, but Huerter's stroke is just incredible. Like he can get hot at any time. I hate to say it, that's exactly who I would want on the Cavs. Is either of those two guys would be such a good fit. Like a little bit more playmaking on Bogdanovic's side, a guy that can just get red hot from behind the line and Huerter. I mean, two great picks, and yeah, I think we're talking about the 7th or 8th best guy on the court, and those two guys are really good. Unfortunately, bring a lot more than probably a Cavalier does in that spot. So I've got 2 picks left. So I'll do 2 in a row here, and then Josh will finish up with his last pick. So I've got some interesting names on the board. I think Capella is still on the board from the Hawks. He's obviously one of the best rebounders in the league. He can block shots still. Hawks are getting a little light now that we've taken 4. I think what I would do at this point, and I'm not building the team. I really have a decision between Lowry, Love, LeVert. Lowry, Love, and LeVert are 3 guys I could pick, and then Capella I think is the other guy that I would pick. If I'm taking best basketball player and who might be most impactful tomorrow, it's tough. That's a really tough call. I think I'm gonna pick. LeVert hasn't shown me enough yet this year. I'm gonna go with Lowry. I think Lowry. I don't love to say that, but I think Lowry is my next best pick. And then I'm going to finish it up with Capella. What he might be. If Allen is not 90%, I think Capella could have a monster game. So I'm going to finish up with Lowry and Capella. And that stings that I have Trey and Capella on my team. I don't like that. And Hunter, by the
way. Yeah. Jeez. Damn. Are you really a Hawks fan?
Closet Hawks fan, grew up in Buckhead. Yep, that's me.
So that leaves me with 2. I will go with Gallinari.
I'm sorry, you have 1 because you have Garland.
No, I've done 2-2-2. No, I've done 2-2. Yeah, it's 2-2-2 for me, isn't it?
You have Garland, Mobley, Bogdan, and Huerter, right?
Yeah. I thought we were doing 6.
Oh,
Didn't you
you're
just do
right.
6?
I apologize. You're right.
I was
I'm
just
out.
saying, wait. No, you're good. I'll go with Gallinari and Kevin Love. And it's crazy to me that we just picked 12 players, and Isaac Okoro and Karis LeVert, who will be the starting two, one of them will be the starting 2 guards tomorrow, to not make the top 12.
That's telling, isn't it? That's kind of scary.
That's very scary, especially considering Karis or Isaac will likely be the guy that has to guard Trey, who is the number 1 pick, and they were not named one of the top 12 players in this game tomorrow night by us.
And who the Cavs gave up, not very little at the trade deadline. That was a decent trade for the Pacers, potentially. Depends what happens with the picks, but yeah, that was a fun little draft exercise. I guess to me, what rings out is just the Hawks just have some dudes, and if you're picking the 2 best players on the court, I'll pick Garland and Mobley over any 2 of the Hawks. But once you get into top 3, top 4, even top 5, I'm really starting to pull towards the Hawks because they got 3 or 4 guys that can just score the basketball, where I just don't have that confidence in some of the Cavs players right now.
Yeah, you're right. You said they have a lot of dudes. Hopefully tomorrow night, they're dudes that are ice cold. Just one game. That's what makes. I mean, we all know how awesome March Madness is, but this one game playoff is the same. It's like the NBA version of March Madness, just because it's one game. If you're cold, you could be literally the Phoenix Suns and go up against a team that's under 500. And if the Phoenix Suns are cold, who are for those of you wondering, they're by far the best team in the NBA record wise. They had a 7.5 game lead over the best record. But if they're ice cold, they can lose to anyone. So not only obviously it helps if you had better players tomorrow night in this one game playoff between the Hawks and Cavs, but having that hot hand or cold non-hot hand is just as important. And that's why I can't stress this enough, how important it is to have that home court advantage in Cleveland tomorrow night.
Yeah, JB had a few comments after the Brooklyn game where we got punched. His exact words were, we got punched in the face and it took us a minute to respond. I have no concern how the Cavaliers are going to come out and respond tomorrow night, because the atmosphere is going to be insane, and because it's very evident that they came out sluggish against Brooklyn. I don't think they're going to make that same mistake twice. So I think you hit it dead on. My confidence in JB getting the guys up, based on especially what they just went through, where it's so evident what went wrong, I think they're going to come out guns a-blazing. And this game just screams to me like Lamar Stevens. I don't know how many minutes he's going to play. I don't know if he's even going to attempt a shot, but just an insane atmosphere. The crowd's going to be going crazy. I can just see a Lamar Stevens put back dunk or something crazy. That's just going to have the crowd go insane.
I wouldn't be surprised if every NBA player has 6 fouls to give. I wouldn't be surprised if a Lamar Stevens guy plays 5 minutes and has 5 tough fouls on Trey, just to let him just to let him know that you're there. I mean, that will not only get the crowd wound up, but just nothing cheap. I'm not saying the cheap foul, but just let Trey know that you're there and give him nothing easy. Because let's be honest, if Lamar and Isaac Okoro combine to play 25 minutes tomorrow night, that's 12 fouls in 25 minutes that they have to give.
Yep. You got to do it. It's do it, or you're going to regret all summer what you didn't do tomorrow. I hope JB, if there's 2 aspects of JB, I think one is cultural and getting through to the guys, and the second is X's and O's. I have no questions or concerns about culturally and him getting through to the guys. And I'm assuming that's going to be part of his conversation with the guys tomorrow is guys, don't hold anything back. This is it. If we lose tomorrow, there's no practice to, the next day. It's win or go home, like you said. And man, I'd love to be a fly on the wall in that locker room, because I hope they're, the guys are young. That's something you get with young teams too. It's some of these guys are 19, 20 years old.
It's like Grandpa Kev and his grandkids tomorrow night.
Yeah. The young kids are just excited to be there. They're going to be is this how it is? Is this how the playoffs are? And Kevin's going to be yeah, he's going to be chilling. and the young guys are going to be like so eked out. It's, oh man, I'm ready, man. Now we're at 23 hours.
That's why I think the first quarter, I mean, this is cliche kind of. The first quarter tomorrow night is so big because you know that the adrenaline's going to be going for the Cavs just because the atmosphere, I mean, their adrenaline's going to be pumping from the start. Just the atmosphere for one, and just a winner go home game at home. So that's why this first quarter is so important, because if they can just like fight through that adrenaline and just like keep the energy going for the first 12 minutes, that's huge. And then if they go down 10, 15 points, that'll not only quiet down the crowd, but that'll just be like a huge, like, oh no, here we go again sort of thing. So I don't know. I just hope my perfect scenario tomorrow night is the Cavs start off hot and have like a 10-point lead after the first quarter. First quarter intermission going to the second quarter, 10-point lead. Because the crowd will literally be so loud, and that will only give more and more confidence to the team. I just can't stress that home court advantage. The Cavs need to take advantage of it, and the easiest way to not take advantage of it is getting down early, which is what they've been doing a lot lately, and then they work their way back, but it's just not enough because they dug themselves in way too big of a hole.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, if you're going to the game tomorrow, if they do get into a hole, I mean, the one thing this team has done, even while they're struggling, is they come back. Like they're not going to lay down. So keep going. Keep going. If you're a fan in the arena, don't make the scoreboard tell you to do something. Like, just get after it. It's your last game of the season too. I know that's super corny, but just go all out for it, man. Don't have a voice, to your point.
Don't worry. That's not only corny, but the scoreboard things are kind of corny too. Like when the opposing team shoots a free throw, you put up like the Steelers logo. I mean, seriously, you really need a Steelers logo to tell you what to do when the opponent shoots free throws.
Right. Speaking of, I did see that one Greg Newsome is going to be at the game tomorrow, so I'm sure he'll get a nice eruption from the crowd. I'll be curious if any other Browns players are there too. So that's just something else that the fans will be pumped up about. Do you think
that Miles, if Miles is in town, you'd think that he'd be there? I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like that'd be like a must if he's in town.
Yeah, I saw Jay-Z's been at courtside the past few games. So that's like our version of Jay-Z in Cleveland, is Myles Garrett and Greg Newsome being at the game.
Never did I ever think that Myles Garrett and Jay-Z would be compared, but here we are.
Here we are. So this might be a good transition. I mean, you talked about the first quarter already. Are you ready to give a prediction what you think is going to happen tomorrow? We don't really do predictions. So maybe I just put you on the spot, but is this okay? Can we do predictions on the show?
But the problem is that I don't want to jinx it though. I'm very superstitious. So, and I think that kind of tells you my answer too, saying that I don't want to jinx it.
I can read the tea leaves, and we won't speak of it more in hopes that it doesn't jinx it.
But I meant to say this when we were talking about Trae Young before, and so the Cavs are 1-3 against the Hawks this season. Throw that record out the door. That literally doesn't mean anything. The Cavs weren't at 100% in any of the games. Actually, I quizzed Seth prior to this podcast. The Cavs' only win against the Hawks this season was the third game of the season, and it was the Cavs' first win of the season, actually. The starting backcourt was Colin Sexton and Ricky Rubio. Colin Sexton, it literally seems like it's been years since he has suited up in the wine and gold. Ricky Rubio, we all know what happened there because the Cavs have not been themselves. That is for sure since he tore his ACL. But just that's why the season record somewhat makes sense because it gives you like an idea of how the teams fare against each other. But just due to injuries, especially on both teams now, it's just like just because the Cavs are 1-3 against the Hawks this year doesn't mean that the Hawks are way better. It just is what it is. But speaking of those 4 games, Trae Young in those 4 games has averaged 32.5 points, 9 assists, and 9 assists a game while shooting 46% from the field and 41% from 3. That cannot happen tomorrow night. 32 points can happen, but it cannot be on an efficient 42-41% shooting night. That if that happens, you can likely say that the Cavs season will be over.
Yeah, I'm thinking we may see a healthy dose of that zone where Mobley plays up top, and the other four guys almost have like a box around the paint. They did it a little bit against Brooklyn, but I think like Trey is like the perfect matchup for that. As long as Mobley's comfortable and he's not getting, he's not getting kind of screened too bad up there. I would love to see that little, like, I don't know, call it like the box and one. I'm not the best like X's and O's guys, but I would love to see a little bit of that. The Cavs did have some success with that earlier on in the season. I know even though they're 1-3, we were playing Kevin Pangos in some of those games. So yeah, like you said, throw those out the window. But yeah, you don't really stop Trey. It's just like Kyrie and KD. You don't stop them. You try to make them make tough shots, and that's going to be the game plan.
Isn't the saying like you can't stop them, you only hope to contain them?
Yeah,
I don't even want to contain him. Just like you said, just make things very tough for him all night. And if he makes a shot, I know the other night Evan Mobley was playing perfect defense. I think it was on Kyrie, and someone took a screenshot of the picture, and like Kyrie's shooting hand was like this, and this was Evan Mobley's defensive hand, and it was a swish. Just if he makes those shots, it is what it is. Trae Young's a great basketball player, but I just don't want anything to be easy, especially free throws tomorrow night. And yeah, if he goes off for 40, I hope it's 15 made shots and 12 of them were how the heck did he do that kind of shots. I just don't give up anything easy. That's what I'm hoping for, if that makes sense.
And let's guarantee each other, especially Josh, if you make it to the game, if Trae Young shoots more than 12 free throws, you and I are both going to super glue ourselves to the court. Did you happen to see that at the game the other night?
By the way, I didn't see it during the game, but I was scrolling through Twitter. How stupid can you be to think that you would have enough time to sit on the court and the glue to dry? Like, don't you realize how long it takes for glue to dry? It would take at least like 2-3 minutes at the very, very least. And there's no way NBA security is going to allow you to sit there for 2 to 3 minutes. I mean, I guess that lady got what she wanted because it was all over social media. But like, glue takes forever to dry. So why would you choose glue?
Needed like cement or something. But yeah, if Trae Young shoots over 12 free throws, Josh and I will. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to do that.
I'll run out on the court and tackle him during his free
throw. There we go.
And then during the last 2-minute report, JB Bickerstaff will complain about being right and then get fined for what the last 2-minute report proved. That is literally the worst case scenario, by the way. Is the Cavs lose on the referees being bad, which has happened plenty of times this season. JB Bickerstaff complains about the referees being bad, even though he's right. And then the last 2-minute report comes out Saturday morning and says that JB Bickerstaff was right, but he still gets fined. That is the absolute worst case scenario, is if the referees decide the game tomorrow night.
And the only reason we're bringing that up is because we've seen it multiple times this year. We've been burned before. We're Cleveland fans. Like, that's where our heads go. I'm right there with you. That would be the worst case. If the Cavs do a no-show and they get beat by 30, okay, there's a lot of things to talk about in the offseason, a lot of things to fix. If it comes down to the refs and another stupid report that doesn't go the Cavs' way, that would be the worst way to end the season.
Yes. I'm not fine with the Cavs losing tomorrow. But I am fine with them losing if it's the right way, if that makes sense. Like, if the Hawks deserve to win. If the Cavs deserve to win and they lose because of the referees, I will be it's Cleveland, so maybe it will likely happen. But I just hope I just hope tomorrow's game doesn't come down to a referee's whistle or non-whistle, which, like you said, it's happened a lot. It happened like a week or two ago with that last 2-minute report. Just let the boys play and don't. I don't want to say don't blow your whistle all the time, because sometimes it needs to be, but just like, I hope the referees have a good game tomorrow night. And there's nothing to say like and there's no what ifs. Like, what if the referees would have been better where the Cavs have won? Put it that way.
I like that. Maybe we applaud the refs when they do, like, they have the little numbers on their backs. Maybe instead of cheering for the Cavs, like, if there's a fair, good whistle, either way, I think we applaud them either way. If it's against the Cavs, if it's against the Hawks, if it's a good call, we applaud. Ref number 42, clap it up.
Standing ovation.
Yeah.
42 claps.
Good job. Very good job. And maybe that fruition, if we're really smart sports fans, which I think we are in Cleveland, let's applaud those referees. They're going to come for us and be on our side.
That'll never happen.
No.
But I guess, I mean, there's not really much else to talk about. I just hope that the referees don't decide the game tomorrow. I have more final thoughts, but that's my biggest takeaway going into tomorrow night. Let the players decide the game on the court. Don't let the referees whistle decide it.
Oh, let me hit you with this really quick. What would be your biggest indication of a Cavalier win tomorrow? What like one thing has to happen that's going to make you feel confident that the Cavs will win?
Darius Garland has to be on his A game. If he struggles, I mean, if Darius struggles, they're going to need Evan Mobley, Kevin Love, and 3 of Jetty. No, okay, so they'll need Evan Mobley, and then 3 of Jetty, Kevin Love, Karis LeVert. I'm missing one. Oh, and Lowry.
Lowry.
And Lowry. Yeah. They'll need 4 of those 5 guys to play superb. Because, I mean, we saw the other night, I guess we could have talked about this too. You could tell the other night in Brooklyn, yes, it's against Brooklyn, who is one of the favorites to win it all this year. We all know that. But you could tell that, like, the stage was big for a lot of the Cavs. Besides Kevin Love, Darius Garland, and Evan Mobley, a lot of the Cavs guys seemed wide-eyed. And, I mean, that's somewhat expected. It was their first playoff game for a lot of these youngsters. But just hopefully, since it's at home, they won't be in with one game under the belt like that. They won't be so wide-eyed where the stage is too big for them. But, yeah, I mean, I guess to answer your question again, Darius Garland has to be on his A game. If he's not putting up points, he has to be dishing out 15 assists.
Yeah, it's not even close. I think you hit it. It's DG, because this team, we've said it week in and week out, this team goes how DG goes offensively. Defensively, whatever. You have to score. It's the NBA. You got to score enough points to win. I mean, they're not going to win 92 to 89. They got to score. So, yeah, Garland's got to have a good game. And if they force the ball out of Garland's hands, he can still have a good game by racking up that assist total. So, yeah, 100% agree with you. It's DG has got to play just like he did in Brooklyn. He played incredible. I mean, he had 6 turnovers, too many turnovers, too many hot passes, but he played incredible in Brooklyn, and he's got to do it again.
Yeah, simple as that. And I mean, he had 6 turnovers probably because he was trying to force things with that 20-point deficit. They were down 40-20 after the first quarter.
Yep.
And I know he had like 30. I forget how many points he had, but he had a lot of shots too. But I'm fine with that. Obviously, more efficient, more points would be better. But Darius Garland, I'd say, as a betting guy, I know like points and assists are usually like, or it's points, rebounds, assists. I'd say Darius Garland's points and assists have to be 38 plus for the Cavs to win tomorrow. So like 27 points, 11 assists would obviously be like right on the dot.
Yeah, you know what's like pretty awesome about that projection is like that's somewhat of like a tame game for him, you know? Like that doesn't feel like, oh, he has to play. Yeah, he has to play really well, but I would not be shocked at all if he went for 32 and 12 tomorrow. Like that would be a really good game from him. So that's just like a special moment to reflect on, like, oh, like that's a very realistic stat line you just put up. And that's so awesome that that's his realistic stat line.
And we will talk about DG's leap and that's stats like that just like seem like they happen on the daily or every game for him now during the offseason. Hopefully that's a few weeks out. Maybe it could be Saturday. I don't know. But yeah, just like that's why I don't want to talk about the offseason yet, but that's why this offseason is going to be so fun too, because the expectations are going to be real. We already know what we have in Darius Garland. He made a huge leap. Evan Mobley, I mean, with one offseason under his belt, getting stronger. The chemistry that the Cavs big 3, and that's why this. I mean, I'm not already looking ahead of the offseason, but this offseason is going to be so damn fun too.
Yeah, Bob, we're going to have loaded shows this summer, man, with all the possibilities. There's so many different lineup possibilities, player possibilities. It's going to be great. That's all I have. I mean, I think I'm already daydreaming about tomorrow. I don't have much else other than just win, baby. Al Davis.
I'll do who did the can't wait? Was that Kirk Cousins?
Oh, Bart Scott, right?
Bart Scott. Wait, what did Kirk Cousins do?
Jeez.
During the press conference,
You
he
like
was known
that?
for something.
You
Oh
like
yeah, you like that? Yes, but yeah, Bart Scott can't wait because I literally can't wait for tomorrow night. And then, by the way, if the Cavs win tomorrow night, they're in the playoffs. I'm pretty sure they play Sunday either at 1 or 3:30 in Miami. So it's like a very, very quick turnaround. There's no time to celebrate, just making the playoffs. Yeah, hopefully they're playing Sunday in Miami. I'll gladly take that.
Well, if they play Sunday in Miami, Josh and I will try to hop on a little Saturday action, do a quick turnaround, and preview that hell of a series. I'm looking forward to a potential Saturday pod with you.
True that. All right, so you said no final thoughts for you. How about no predictions, but will we be doing a Saturday pod?
We will be doing a Saturday pod. Yes, we will. And we're going to talk about how Bam is in COVID and may not be able to play early on in that series. We will be talking on Saturday.
All right. I don't have any final thoughts either, but I'll leave you with this. We'll see you guys Saturday night. As always. No, actually, that's a bad way to end it because I had to thank everyone too. So if you're tuning into us live, we appreciate you always, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. If you are watching or if you listen to us on wherever you listen to your podcast, it seems like there's hundreds of apps to listen to podcasts now. We appreciate you always. I guess we'll see you Saturday night, or we'll talk to you Saturday. We'll see you and talk to you Saturday night. If you're going to the game tomorrow night, have a blast. Please lose your voice, and hopefully you're celebrating a win. And as always, go Cavs.